Hello, everyone. So excited to be here talking with Chad today. And thank you, Brand Innovators, for bringing us all together. It's so great being back live and in person. And Chad and I have actually been working really closely together for the last 2 years, but this is our first time meeting in person. So pretty cool that we were able to make it happen here.
Here,
Yeah, love it. All right, so let's start with some quick intros and then we'll jump into the content. So Olivia Ondash, I'm a Senior Director of Global Client Development at the Trade Desk, and I work really closely with Chad on the Johnson & Johnson business. Turn it over to you.
Hi, Chad Mizee. I lead our consumer experience organization globally, and that's comprised of media, MarTech, AdTech, e-commerce capabilities, healthcare professional omnichannel capabilities, precision marketing. I think that's it. If I tick everybody off, yes. So a few things in there, but global media is really a big piece of the role and what my team does.
Awesome. Thanks, Chad. So we will start with an easy question. As I mentioned, it's great being back in person and in New York City. So Chad, can you talk about what you've really liked being back in person and what you've missed about the city as well?
Events like this, where you can actually see people, get to talk to people, meet people. I did take my daughter to the Natural History Museum. That was fun. Or just going to a restaurant on a weeknight. That's not something, as opposed to takeout. It's nice.
Love it. For me, I hate online shopping. So now that we're back in the office, it's made it really easy to do some shopping right next to the office. So not great for my credit card. Okay, so we'll talk about some of the trends. So the last several years, there's been so much that's been happening in the connected TV space. And even in just last week or two, there's been a lot of news. So Chad, can you talk about your predictions for the streaming over the next couple of years?
Predictions about streaming. We've already seen consolidation. So I think what's really interesting is we've basically replicated the network model. So you've got CBS, NBC, ABC with a version of a platform, and then everybody else kind of represents cable. So HBO, Netflix, and Amazon. Amazon is like TBS. Back in the day, it's essentially you've got the same platforms or a kind of a Back to the Future consolidation of properties, and everybody's going AVOD. So we saw CNN Plus unfortunately go down. I think that's sad. I know a lot of people put a lot of work into that, but I think the rise of AVOD and the competition among all those networks is going to throw more people into an AVOD model because you want to be part of all of that. You don't want to leave anything off the table, and so I think we're going to see some additional migration there.
Definitely.
Netflix is really exciting. It's 45% of the global streaming market at this point, and so I'm excited that that's going to be an option, especially outside of the U.S., where basically we've got YouTube as video inventory, and so this creates a whole new platform. Now they're going to have brand safety issues that we're going to have to work through, but I'm excited on where all of this is going and the opportunity it presents.
Yeah, definitely. I think optionality as a consumer is one that's definitely huge. So excited to see that continue to expand with Disney Plus too. So a lot of big changes there. So another area that I know we're working really closely together in, and there's been a lot of change over the last really year, is the retail media space. So
Yep.
So what excites you the most about retail?
That it's still in its infancy. So retail media is so interesting because it's not one thing. It's like 5 different flavors of different things. And we've been in conversations for so long around, hey, just bring us your data. We'll take care of the inventory piece. Let us do self-service. Let us manage the audiences. Let us build around that. And that's finally starting to happen, which is really exciting. I think now as we're getting into some testing, we want to go end to end with that. We want to create performance models out of that. And so we're actually, the conversation is going to evolve with the retailer where we want to go back and say, no, can you put it all back together? Because what I want to see is my full investment against that. I want to be able to look at the offer, the creative that's going into that system, because it's not just going to be the media impression that's going to drive change. It's that BOGO that's on the creative that I need to understand performance around. So it is going to evolve. The biggest ask, I think, right now is can we all align on selling stuff instead of having a side P&L, instead of having these misaligned incentives around what is retail media supposed to do. And if it sells stuff for them and it sells stuff for us at a reasonable price where we can see a return, that's great for everybody. And so that's really the conversation that we want to be having.
Yeah, love that. How do we open up more of the data and measurement to use and look holistically across everything that you're doing to really make sure you're driving sales? Love it. So, Chad, you oversee the consumer experience group. Can you talk about what consumer experience means to a CPG, and in particular, obviously Johnson and Johnson?
That's a good question. So consumer experience is the sum of all consumer interactions across obviously communications, but packaging, efficacy of the actual product, that consumer journey, any loyalty programming we've got associated with it, and what is that experience over time relative to a consumer's expectation. So it's aspirational at this point, I'll be honest, but we do want to be thinking that way. I think the biggest challenge is a lot of the growth models in the industry, specifically around CPG, are still built around media. So it's hard to, there's not a lot of scholarly work yet, I think, around, well, what does consumer experience mean in CPG and how do you build growth around an experience relative to reach and frequency?
Yep. Awesome. So your team, it's been really impressive working together for the last couple of years and seeing how you've used your media and addressable strategy to really drive real business results and be an ROI driver. So can you talk about how you and your team have gotten to a place where your media is really driving sales and is ROI positive?
Yeah, well, I mean, first thing is getting as much media under a model as possible. So we're looking globally at our working media percentages. What are we spending? How do we get as much of that under measurement? How do we increase the frequency of that measurement? You can only iterate and ideate as fast as you can measure, so or at least reliably. So part of it is both the breadth and depth of and frequency of that measurement. And then the other thing is we do believe that as a philosophy that media should be a repeatable, forecastable, predictable tool for growth. So, so recognizing that the media landscape is fraught with different channels and changing consumer behaviors and formats and measurements that all change, we still think there's some predictability to it, and we need to be able to say, hey, if I'm going to put $1 in, how much am I going to get out over what time period, and then set goals against that. Set our agency compensation model against that, so we're aligned with the agency on incentives. And then from a project standpoint or initiative standpoint, stack rank the capabilities that we want to build, the things we want to drive against ROI, and where is that going to pay out? What's the level of effort required? And then go after it so that we can hit those targets.
Yep. And I know that you've also seen ROI improve when you use a more high value audience or custom audience. And I know J&J was one of the first to really evolve your media strategy to be audience driven, audience first instead of content first. So can you talk about how you guys approached that a couple years ago and then where you're looking to go next?
Yeah, no, we do believe in high value audiences and that approach. And we've seen even in some propensity models that high value audiences, when you lean in, that return is just that much higher relative to everything else. So, so we're continuing to do that. We build our high value audiences based on behaviors that are visible in the digital ecosystem, so we can actually find and target those people. They're not personas, they're not archetypes, but really, what are the signals in the marketplace that we can operate off of to find those high value audiences? So, so we're continuing to lean in there, and the opportunities are not only on the targeting side, but really end to end. So when you start with a high value audience, the beauty is your communications plan kind of falls out at the bottom. So if you're developing a product against a high value audience and looking at your source of volume against a high value audience, then it's very clear kind of what that needs to do from a claims, content, creative, offer perspective to then pull that high value audience all the way through and make them a loyal consumer. And so that's really the discipline, or I think where we need to go next is really creating that end-to-end process around that, and then continue to iterate. Addressable content is an area of opportunity. Contextual layered on top of high-value audiences is certainly an opportunity. Attention metrics are a massive opportunity, but again, it's an and to our high-value audiences, not necessarily an alternative.
How it all works together.
Yep.
And you mentioned process. I think over the last 2 years, what I've also really learned about your business is that how you guys scale all your learnings, your best practices globally is really impressive. You've created a really structured and tailored approach to roll everything out. So I'm sure there's other marketers in the room that also have a global lens. So can you talk about how you are thinking about global implementation and scaling all of your media strategies around the world?
Thank you for saying so, because it doesn't feel like that some days. No, we're still very decentralized. We're still very market driven. The markets are where we make money. So that's where we spend money locally. We make money locally. We don't make money at the global level. So it is a really coordinated approach that we want to take. And on the global side, we're really focused on what are the structural issues. So what do we need to do around identity? What do we need to do around search effectiveness, supply path optimization, first-party data acquisition? What are some of those core pieces from a technology, data, process, and even people recommendations that we want to set thresholds on or milestones against to make sure we're addressing those? And then it's having a global agency model certainly helps from a governance and best practice scaling perspective. And then it's really working on what is that learning plan with the local market. So what do they want to know? How do we roll that up into a prioritized plan that we want to go after? And then really try to get down to as few big things as possible within that we're going to go after and then take back to them in at least 80% baked form.
Yep. And I know that the top of every market's learning agenda right now is the future of cookies and how to future-proof that. So I'm sure that's top of mind of a lot of marketers in the room too, with third-party cookies potentially going away next year. So can you talk about how your team is thinking about that and strategizing for that future?
Yeah, I don't know that we've got anything unique here. It's contingency planning out of the gate. So what are the alternatives, and whether that's second-party data, native targeting through walled gardens, where else can we go, contextual. But it's also testing and iterating with the identity solutions that are coming on board. I don't know that anything is scaling that effectively yet. And it's first-party data, like every other CPG, where we're trying to figure out what is our first-party data strategy, how do we get more in the more of those interactions, more of those people, more of those opportunities to have a conversation, and really what's the value prop behind it.
Yep, lots of testing.
Yes.
All right, so we touched on retail media before, but we are live with several tests right now. Walmart, Kroger, some others going live too. So would love to hear from you. I know you mentioned some of the great progress we've made, but also some of the areas you want us to improve.
Yeah.
So just going a little deeper on the retail space.
Yeah, I mean, short term, the opportunities are really, I think, on the measurement side. What is that attribution window? How do we get to start talking about that in the same way across the industry? What is the purchase frequency, or how quickly can we get data back in real time to optimize against the campaigns that we're putting out there on a retailer by retailer basis? Making sure that it's sequential, where we are getting attribution back. Was it they saw the ad and then they made the purchase, or they just did it in the same week, same 2-week period? I think it's down to that level of granularity, where we want to go across retail, understand kind of what's the audience, what are the audiences, what's available, how is it working, and then back into really an always-on platform with these retailers, so that we can get performance-based. So we want to be always on with funding. We want to take what we've learned from China and the retail models there. We want to take what we've learned from Amazon and being always on there, and apply that to the broader network, and again, lean in with an audience-first strategy.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what we found is all these retailers are in different maturities. So how can we partner together to really push the industry forward there too, to make sure you're getting all of the measurement and audience targeting that J&J needs to drive a successful business. All right, so this was one of my favorites this past year. We now have real-time sales measurement in the Trade Desk platform for your team to optimize on.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting to see that instead of just optimizing to viewability or CTR, that you have that real sales data in the platform that you can make decisions on. And obviously your MTA and MMM is the North Star at the end of the day. But can you talk about why it is so important to be able to make optimizations on real sales data?
Because the proxies don't work, at least in a CPG. So, we've taken a look at the media metrics and tried to optimize off that and fundamentally the signal is not as strong as it needs to be to really optimize off of. So not everything needs to be in a performance model, but where we can and learn from that, I think it's useful to lean in against those metrics and have something to optimize against. I think that's foundational. And then we can go from there. We can, once we've got a baseline, we can start to understand what the components of that are, what the fact, why it's working the way it is, and use some of those engagement metrics again. But you got to have a starting place.
Yeah. And I know our traders and your agency team, Matterkind and J3, definitely like having more tools to optimize to and drive success. So yeah, it's definitely good to see. So back to connected TV. I know there's been some challenges for J&J in the connected TV space when it comes to measurement, but it looks like there is some progress being made there. So would love to hear about what you're most excited about with the future of connected TV and hopefully getting to invest more there on the consumer side.
Yeah. It's still probably 2023 before it becomes a real core pillar. The ROIs are improving, but still have a little ways to go. So we're going to continue to play with it. But like the ability to pay for a 15, to monitor for brand safety and fraud, not to buy a run of site, run of network kind of approach. Just getting to obviously frequency management, cross-channel, across a disparate set of device IDs and people IDs. There's a lot of challenges. MTA we were talking about, the integration of measurement into those platforms. So there's still enough friction, I think, in the system to be really a reliable source, going back to the top of the conversation, a reliable source of dollars in, dollars out. What are we getting and how do we make that as efficient as possible?
Yes, definitely. So we just flew through our questions. I will open it up to the audience if you have any questions for Chad that you would like to hear him answer. Yep.
Well, I think the rationale behind it's been in the news, pretty well reported on. I think there is an opportunity to unlock shareholder value, recognize the pieces are going in different directions, and so let consumer go be consumer and really invest in the things that are going to drive value there, unless the rest of the business do the same thing. So there is an unlock there. There is some overlap, certainly with media operations and some of the stuff we do, and so we are working presently on what does that look like in the future tense, but that's really a bit of the rationale and kind of what it looks like going forward. So there may be still some centralized things that you share, or no, we'll pull it apart as much as possible. Yeah.
That was very impressive, Chad, by the way. Like, there's a nice, like, you don't understand the tightrope he's walking right now with a gaggle. There's a gaggle of lawyers back there that are just waiting for him to screw this up. But good job, good job. Anyway, what are the questions that we have? In the back.
So you talked a little bit about cookie deprecation.
That's big.
We're all kind of dealing with the same elements there. Outside of first-party data, have there been any kind of creative solutions to thinking about more context, so whether that's a proximity play to stores or weather data or other types of data that maybe isn't so much on a personal level but allows for you to have a really good conversation with the consumer?
There are. It's always at what cost. So yes, whether you can do a lot of things. We do a lot with. I think the Bear team was talking about allergy season up here. We do a lot with those triggers. Even the baby audience. There's 4 million babies born in the U.S. every year, roughly, and they're fairly identifiable based on context or even on a native platform. Google and Facebook can identify new moms pretty with a fair degree of fidelity. So it's really, does that, do those platforms or do those opportunities, are they at scale? To what extent? And is the CPM at at the right level where it makes sense to invest there relative to going and finding them on your own. And I think that's really the balance is, yeah, I can find them, or I can, but can I find them at scale? Can I find eczema sufferers at scale? Can I find allergy sufferers at scale? Probably not, because there's very few signals that would indicate when the allergy sufferers don't behave any different on the internet or in their media consumption than anybody else. So, so yeah, there are some contextual plays, but not probably as many as you would think.
Anything? Any questions? He's really smart. You should ask more questions. He's worth the price of admission. How far are you guys branching out on beyond, like, I know you've got like the core circle of people you're advertising with. Like, how far outside of you are you guys going now into the worlds of like TikTok or Snap? Are you doing a lot there? Or?
Yeah, we're seeing good results with Snap. We're seeing good results with TikTok.
Is it by brand? Is it specific? I mean, is it probably an obvious question? Like, it's by specific brands, right? Like,
yeah,
like
yeah.
there's ones that don't translate. Do you find? I guess
It's
that's
still
my
audience
question.
first, so we want to like
Right.
define your audience. Then where's your audience?
Right.
So that's how we channel plan. And yeah, so for like a Neutrogena on TikTok makes a ton of
Right.
sense. CPMs are really good. They still haven't fully monetized that. I think it's.
Let me tell TikTok that.
No, I mean, but it's still a very local. I think they're just getting started, so they haven't monetized all the inventory they've got for sure, and don't have self-service really up and running yet. So I think there's opportunity to, and like I said, it's very local. There's very little global infrastructure or support there, so it is local teams making local decisions on a platform like TikTok and how far to lean in.
It did look like there was one more question. I don't know if no.
I just had the same question that I asked the beer
Oh.
team.
Oh.
How are you thinking about your shift in spend for retail media? Is it below the line, above the line, co-op, incremental?
Yes.
All of those buckets?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on the market, but yes, there is, and we've got people here in the audience that could probably answer that better than me. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of that come over, and you know, to the extent we can get out of promotions and put it into media and drive top line and improve the P&L overall, I think we're going to continue to see that trend. It's a big piece of what we spend, and that's why the performance of it is so critical to get on the right track, because we can't just continue to put money there and not have a conversation around performance.
By the way, just to go. Oh, go ahead. You got the question.
Yeah, so you guys talked about the fact that working with a partner like the Trade Desk has enabled J&J to optimize against sales. How do you balance what you're seeing in sales from a partner like the Trade Desk with something like MMM that's a bit of a lag factor? How do you balance and rectify what you're seeing there?
That's a very good question. I mean, generally, we want to lean in on performance models. The only reason you've got mix is because you can't read the signals, or there aren't signals. So where you've got signals, then lean into those signals primarily. That's the flip answer, I think. As you go deeper into, well, what is that? What is the overlap? What are the channel allocations? How do you understand attribution or a consumer journey around that? Or I think that's where mix comes in and gives you a little more clarity on what each one is playing. But I think we do want to lean into those signals where we've got them, and because that's where you can optimize. That's where you can learn quickly. That's where you can try things quickly and really experiment to get to a place where your MMM is that much better than it was last year.
All right, if there's no more questions. Just because I didn't want to say when the bear, not that I didn't want to say because the bear people were here. Just that I wanted them to answer the question. I mean, but building off of your thing on the top, above the line, below the line, same thing. So we were trying to get those consumer funds to fund any retail. But the problem is, and I can say this about J&J, you can't because you'll get in trouble. It's a big box. It's a big black box. Like nobody knows what's there. Like I mean, I could tell the story of a non J&J brand manager at a different company I worked at that just wrote a check to keep her stuff on shelf. And so like as those, so the dream is always there to do it. This is going back several years. It was 2 years. I think it's getting better, but I think yeah, I mean that's the dream is to put it there. Samba. And I know we know each other, by the way. I just like calling you Samba now because it's kind of cool. It's like a kitschy nickname now. Like I'm Samba.
My impression of retail media today is very different than 2 years ago,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's highly addressable now, and
Yep.
it's highly measurable.
And they've gotten smarter about like, no, you can use your trade spend here now. Like I don't know if you're seeing the same thing, but it's. I mean, can you say that or no?
I don't know, yeah.
Ken, you said?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, yes, yes. We're getting lots of nods in the room from yes, yes. A lot of white men are saying yes, so we're good, we're good. So yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. You were all thinking it, just don't start.
My question on it is, now that it's become such a more measurable channel and possibly a very beneficial channel, does it get unlocked from, or does it stay exactly with the trade people doing the deals with each of the retailers?
No, I think there is absolutely opportunity for spend there. Again, we're going to go audience first, so
Oh, I don't mean not spend, but I
Yeah.
mean like in terms of,
He's saying, are you gonna manage it, or are you gonna let the trade people still manage it?
yeah, is it gonna, like, right in the same
Ooh, you're really getting into it now.
Well, actually, I'm gonna go get on that third seat right over there.
No, it's media. So I think as it progresses, as it gets more sophisticated, as it becomes more self-serve, as the budgets get bigger, yeah, you need to put it where there is that expertise within your organization, and the same on the agency side. When it was self-service, or when it was managed service, yeah, you could kind of run it with your account people and a few extras from a performance standpoint. Now that it's self-service, it's sitting with these guys in the programmatic desk. So I think all of that is shifting in real time, and that's what we're grappling with. Is all right, who's got the expertise that can manage this in the best way possible to drive investment not only within that channel but to take a national view of it.
Yeah, I mean, we just backing you up there. It's like, but you said the phrase is exactly what I used to say, which is like whoever has the expertise to manage it. Right, gone are the days where a category business manager was buying search at Kroger. Like that was like I walked into a ton of those deals, and it just
Yeah.
like, what are we buying?
Yeah.
Or buying data from like Dollar General that we can get through our like Oracle partnership. And then it became, but the key was making sure those folks still had a seat at the table because they knew what they needed from a local level. Like you don't want to cut the category business managers out. You just don't want them. You don't want them doing the thing where they don't have the expertise, right?
Right.
So-
Right. Well, and we still need to be connected to what the
Yeah.
promotional plan is. We want to follow that promotional plan because that is going to drive a lot of the effectiveness of that media at the end of the day. So, so there is a role there. I think there's a role from a category management perspective. I think there's a data category management kind of perspective where we can look at, again, the data that's now coming available or that they can make available and say, hey, this is what we're seeing from on a performance basis. When you do this, this, and this, or to this audience, these are the outcomes in a way that we just never had visibility to before. So it changes a little bit of even what we call Capman and category captaincy potentially on the data side or at an individual shopper level. So so it's new opportunities, it's new skill sets, and that's a bit of the evolution that we're seeing.
It's all merging together.
Yes.
All right. Well, if there's no more questions, thank you, Chad.
Thanks, guys.